On cybersecurity, I've constituted a committee. Most of the committees which I constituted during the pandemic, for instance, I constituted a committee on live streaming rules. I constituted a committee on preparing e-filing rules. We constituted a committee on an SOP for digitization. The committee on SOP for digitization was obviated by one basic aspect, namely, what happens if the technology which we adopt today becomes obsolescent? At least I grew up. Many of the young judges here may not have grown up in the same age in which I grew up, but I grew up in an area when you had these records, the long playing and the short playing records. They gave way to your cassettes with the spools, then the smaller cassettes, then the CDs. I still have a CD player, but it is absolutely redundant because nobody plays CDs anymore. What happens if the same thing happens to our digitized record? How do we ensure that this huge outlay of public funds does not become redundant? And therefore, we constituted a committee on SOP, for an SOP on digitization, of which Mr. Katre from CDAC, who's going to speak to you, was a very integral part. All these committees have done their work, but there's one committee which is still doing its work. And that's the committee which is chaired by Justice Rajiv Shakdar. Many of the others were also chaired by him. One of the committees is the Committee on Cybersecurity and Data Security and Privacy. And naturally, that committee is taking time because that is the most difficult part of our work. How do we ensure data security? And how do we ensure data privacy? We have opened up our APIs, our application programming interfaces, to all government departments as step one. Recently, we shared our APIs with a governmental agency. Before we realized that government agency had put up the APIs across India for public consumption, we had to scramble and request them to pull back the APIs from the public domain because we said, look, we can't put these APIs for public consumption across India for the reason that this deals with very sensitive data of individuals, marital problems, child sexual abuse, gender violence, commercial confidences. So we are in the process of evolving a national model for data security and privacy. And the moment that is done, I think we would have achieved a very major step.